Okay, we are rolling. Champions of Champions boxing talk here. Now, history has been equalled. And if you include the knockout ratio of this guy, it's been surpassed. 20 defences from Gennady Triple G Golovkin. He scored many knockouts, many spectacular knockouts. And I'm going to talk about him and his opponent and potentially maybe the future for Triple G. But first I'm going to start this video by saying congratulations to Tony Bellew. I didn't think that Tony Bellew would win this rematch with David Haye. How wrong can you actually be? On 2 occasions. I'm going to give up from now on. I don't care who Tony Bellew fights. This is probably one of the few guys I'm actually going to just give a breakdown, say what could happen, but make no prediction. I always put my neck on the block, but this guy is one of those fighters that keeps surprising me over and over and over again. Now, we didn't see a prime David Haye, but I didn't expect to see a prime David Haye. I actually thought in the first 2 rounds, David Haye was doing well. But again, people were getting frustrated, saying, oh, it doesn't look like the vintage David Haye of Endro Macanelli. It doesn't look like the vintage David Haye that beat John Ruiz and so forth. I never went into this fight with those expectations. You know why? A time machine has not been invented yet. It's over. That David Haye, whether he would have won or not yesterday, the best of David Haye is gone in terms of being a boxer. And it will never return. Also, that applies to Manny Pacquiao. Don't expect Manny Pacquiao that fought Ricky Hatton to turn up against Lucas Matthysse. That Manny Pacquiao was long gone by 2013 max. He was a different fighter the night he fought Brandon Rios. Now, he put on a great display against Rios, Algieri, Timothy Bradley again, Jesse Vargas, but still, the best Manny Pacquiao was gone long before he fought Floyd Mayweather. You know why? Tony Bellew hit the nail on the head, and I'm sick and tired of trying to explain boxers of different styles age differently in the sport, right? Tony Bellew gets it. He knows that a Roy Jones, a David Haye, and a Manny Pacquiao age, well, quicker than even a Tony Bellew type, a Floyd Mayweather type, a Bernard Hopkins type. So for years and years, you can't argue with these Mayweather fans. When a Pacquiao fan says if they'd have fought prime for prime, it would have been a good fight, the Floyd fans get so insulted. Can you not see that a man that relies on reflexes and is an attrition fighter, a power puncher, a smaller guy at that, is going to age quicker than a guy that is conservative, doesn't need to rely on reflexes as much, and is a defensive wizard? So what I'm trying to say is, like Floyd Mayweather was better than Manny Pacquiao May 2nd, Tony Bellew was better than David Haye yesterday. But prime for prime, you never know. It could have been a very different fight. I still may have picked Floyd Mayweather. Knowing what I know now, I may still have picked Floyd Mayweather to win back in the day. But not like that. It would have been a hell of a different fight, let me tell you. And Tony Bellew would have felt a hell of a difference against a prime David Haye. Manny Pacquiao is greater than David Haye. He still has got more left, I think, than David Haye. But I'm worried. I am worried now about this Matthysse fight, because every time you get smacked in the face and you are reminded Father Time is knocking on that door. For a guy that does rely on his reflexes, his speed, his power and all that stuff, Manny Pacquiao has done remarkable to get to age 39 and still be in the sport. He's got to be one of the few that can still operate at a world-class level the way he fights, using reflexes, footwork. But here's the thing. Manny has made more adjustments, hasn't he, than David Haye has. David Haye still tries to do the same things. But never did I expect David Haye to turn up and absolutely annihilate Tony Bellew. I thought David Haye would need to do what he did in the first 2 rounds. Jab to the body, crisp jab to the head, the odd power punch to impress the judges. The problem was David Haye can only do that for 2 rounds. 2 rounds, and you know something? Tony Bellew looked comfortable. When David Haye landed power shots, you see, here's the difference between David Haye. They talk about his power, David Haye. David Haye needs his legs. And he needs to be crisp and he needs to be sharp for his power to pay dividends. Right? He's not like Deontay Wilder, who can hit you with an arm shot and throw you out the arena. Deontay Wilder can be off balance and knock you out. He can be on balance and knock you out. That guy has freakish power. David Haye needs to be on point. He punches with focus. Deontay Wilder can swing all kinds of shots and know that if one accidentally catches you, it can knock you out. David Haye can't do that. David Haye's body needs to be in sync for his power to pay dividends, and it wasn't. I'm not going to talk about the leg, but I am going to talk again about Father Time. Tony Bellew, well, he's become a smarter fighter. He doesn't commit as much anymore, but it's like this. Maybe Tony Bellew was always like that, but I never gave him the credit. Maybe Tony Bellew does better against guys he's afraid of. Maybe a power-punching guy. Tony Bellew, the smarts just ding in his mind, and he becomes a different fighter. But boy, he waited on David Haye, and then when David Haye realised, I think David Haye realised that I haven't got it in the tank to do what Mr. Champions of Champions Boxing Talk said, and outbox Bellew for 12 rounds, so I'm going to start to throw hell for leather. And that's when Tony Bellew came on to David Haye like a Venus flytrap. Hit him with a right, hit him with a left. I think he stunned David Haye on both sides of his temple, and his equilibrium was gone before I think he was even knocked down. I didn't expect that power from Tony Bellew. But he couldn't finish David Haye in the first fight, but it makes me wonder, did David Haye's punch resistance go after taking that clubbing on the ropes? And, of course, once the first knockdown came, Tony Bellew was actually beginning to time David Haye with his own jab by round 3, if you notice. Because David Haye was trying to look fast, but he wasn't. Let me tell you for why. When you see a fighter moving their arms like an octopus and posing, they are trying to give you the impression that they're the person they used to be. And it looks flashy. And it looks fast. But watch David Haye's feet. They don't move in a correct sort of fashion the way David Haye used to move. Now, Paulie Malignaggi made a good point. All of David Haye's weight was on one foot. So, again, he couldn't generate any power. And I don't care who it is. David Haye more so than most, but most athletes to generate power. Boxing is not just about your fists. Your legs do play a part. Foot speed, foot movement, how good the footwork is. Using your legs to generate power in your punches when you sit down on them. And there was none of that from David Haye. It was kind of like arm punches. And as I said, a Deontay Wilder arm punch, or I believe an Anthony Joshua arm punch, natural heavyweights are different from a David Haye arm punch. As I said, full purchase, and David Haye can punch with the best of them. But when his body's slightly out of sync, he's just then a decent punching cruiserweight. That's what he is. And here's the thing. David Haye years ago looked so fast because he was fighting heavyweights who were slower. All cruiserweights are faster. It's ironic that David Haye, 2 of his defeats have been against cruiserweights. Not heavyweights, cruiserweights. Carl Thompson stopped David Haye. A much better version than we seen yesterday. And of course, Tony Bellew has done it twice. Where some of the heavyweights Haye fought couldn't get near him. But sort of that's to be expected. But it wasn't the David Haye we used to see. Father Time has knocked on the door. David Haye started well. But again, Tony Bellew predicted what would happen. He actually said words to the effect of, David Haye will start intelligently. He'll box. Then, sooner or later, he'll go back to type when he's tagged. Now, shout out to Heartman Boxing, because this is exactly what I was thinking when I was watching the fight. He resorted back to type, David Haye, i.e. trying to go into a shootout before he'd even been tagged. And that's what led to him being tagged. Now, everybody's got a plan until they get hit. Everybody's also got a plan until they get tired. And when they get tired, they go back to their old self when they shouldn't be. Very few boxers can reinvent the wheel. Legends like Hopkins can, but they're few and far between. What David Haye produced yesterday reminded me of that first round Mike Tyson had against Lennox Lewis. After that, he was gone. He had 1 good round in him. David Haye had 2 good rounds in him. And he was gone. Well, worse than Mike Tyson, wasn't he? He looked far more shot than Mike Tyson did against Lennox Lewis. At least that was Lennox Lewis there against you. But then again, Tony Bellew is an A-level fighter. The results show it. He's had better wins than against this David Haye. We should have really known. I should have known. Chilemba, beat him. Very awkward fighter. Ask Sergey Kovalev. He had that great win at Goodison. He's beaten Nathan Cleverly when Nathan Cleverly was Nathan Cleverly. Right? So he's had some defining moments in boxing, Tony Bellew. He's talking about fighting Andre Ward. Well, that's a different kettle of fish than fighting David Haye, let me tell you. What makes it interesting, though, is he will be bigger than Andre Ward. Andre Ward will be going up another weight again. Tony Bellew does have... He has the power to hurt Andre Ward. A decent punching cruiserweight can hit as hard as a very good punching light heavyweight like Kovalev. And we've seen Andre Ward start to struggle that little bit more against Sergey Kovalev than he did, say, against Cal Froch, who was smaller. He's going up a weight again. Skill-wise, they're probably not on the same level. Ward is faster, crisper. You would say pound for pound, as good as Bellew is on the inside, he's even better than Bellew on the inside. He's a good body puncher, and he does have a tendency to do the odd dirty thing in there to try and get the advantage. He will test the waters, Andre Ward, but I'm interested to see how he deals with a cruiserweight on the inside, because Andre Ward is not Floyd Mayweather. If Andre Ward's style was completely like Floyd, where he'd box and move all night, I don't think Bellew would have a chance. But Andre Ward gets into exchanges. Let's see how that pans out if that fight happens. Here's another thing. And we're going to sort of end on this with this subject. Tyson Fury. He beats this guy, he beats that guy. According to the Tyson Fury enthusiasts, that guy has not fought anybody since Klitschko. He hasn't fought a soul. And he's had to lose 7 stone in weight. Right now, and it's going to sound bizarre, but everybody laughed at... I laughed at people that said Bellew would beat even a past it David Haye. But Tyson Fury fights Tony Bellew next. Big risk. He might lose. He might lose. Everybody is saying Tyson Fury will come back, climb onto a magic carpet and whoop Anthony Joshua, whoop Tony Bellew, whoop Deontay Wilder. How are you guys getting this time machine from? You haven't seen Tyson Fury fight anyone yet. Since he put on all that weight, was suspended, went through terrible depression. He's older. I don't think Tyson Fury will age well the way he carries on at times. And here's the thing. Tyson Fury relies on his legs, doesn't he? He relies on his speed compared to other heavyweights. If those legs don't move as well as they used to do, Tyson Fury, with ring rust, yes, ring rust, even against a very good cruiserweight, would lose. Put it this way. If he gets past Tony Bellew, but he looks very bad doing it, he would be food if he can't move against Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder, who will not, neither of these guys, if they are losing on the scorecards, they will not pose in front of Tyson Fury like Vladimir Klitschko did. You're talking about finishers, guys that can be losing round after round after round, but they always look for that finishing punch. And here's the thing. Anthony Joshua is a developing fighter. There's a jab there now. We have not seen the best of Anthony Joshua yet. Who knows? We may have already seen the best of Tyson Fury. The guy's abused himself. On that night, when he beat Vladimir Klitschko, and people talk about Tyson Fury now as though he has a whole list of legends and Hall of Famers that he's done this to. He's won. He's two good fighters on his resume. He's got Klitschko and he's got Derek Chisora of note. But on that night, let's just give him this. On that night, he probably may beat Joshua and Deontay Wilder on that night. Is that Tyson Fury there anymore? And if it is, how long will it take for it to be there and defined again? Right? So let's not jump to conclusions. Because the shots that Tyson Fury was throwing at Vladimir Klitschko, Klitschko prides himself in not getting hit. Deontay Wilder does not care if you hit him. And if he can take Luis Ortiz's punches, who hits harder than Tyson Fury, he's not a better heavyweight, but he hits harder. Deontay Wilder will attempt to walk through Tyson Fury. I'm telling you. And an orthodox style is sort of made for Tyson Fury. He confuses them because he fights very unorthodox. Against Deontay Wilder, who is, shall we say, not the most school boxer in the world, Tyson Fury would not be able to read Deontay Wilder as easy as he could read Vladimir Klitschko. Sometimes styles do make fights. They do. He beat Vladimir Klitschko coming off of one of Vladimir Klitschko's best wins. Also, Anthony Joshua, look at the resume now. Let's just say this. He's got Parker. He's got Dylan White, who is probably better than Derek Chisora at the moment. And he stopped Dylan White in 7 rounds. And he's got Vladimir Klitschko. Now, Vladimir Klitschko really did hurt Anthony Joshua. They went to life and death. But at the end of the day, Anthony Joshua stopped Vladimir Klitschko. So, the Anthony Joshua I know, and the best of Tyson Fury then, I would favour Tyson Fury. But Tyson Fury cannot be now greater than he was then. But I think Anthony Joshua is developing. So David Haye, I hope he retires. Tony Bellew made a fool out of us all. David Haye's punch resistance has gone. The haymaker's sharpness has gone. There are still B-level fighters he could probably beat, because he did look good in them first 2 rounds. But is there any point now? I'm not so sure. Only 3 men have beat David Haye, and those 3 men were really good fighters. Tony Bellew, now you have to say, is a real good fighter. Vladimir Klitschko, Hall of Famer. Cal Thompson, a world-class fighter for his time. So credit to David Haye. He's had a great career, champion in 2 weight classes, one of the best we've seen at cruiserweight. He holds his own with anyone in terms of that weight class. So he's done great things, and I wish him well. Moving on now to Gennady Golovkin. His opponent at the weekend, a lot of people scoffed at me. I didn't like the fight on paper. A guy being pulled up from 154 pounds. 3 losses on there. Not particularly an elite name, you would say. Been inactive. Let me tell you something, though. I actually did some research on this guy. And he got a draw against a world-class fighter, Erislandy Lara. He then went the distance with Lara. Then he goes the distance with the so-called great boys of the modern boxing age, Mr. Charlo. He actually went 10 rounds with that guy. Then another quality fighter that escapes my name. He also goes the distance with this guy. So then I'm thinking, I think Golovkin's going to win. But I think he's going to do it, break him down in 6 rounds, but it's not going to be particularly impressive. And in the first round, Golovkin was kind of feeling him out, but looked kind of sloppy. And there was an attempted right hand that Golovkin, I think, parried. Then he parried another right, and then he stopped in his tracks. And this guy landed a beautiful left hand bang on Golovkin's chin. And you're thinking, Golovkin sort of just looked at him like an angry Rottweiler who had just come across a wasp. A lot of fighters would have been stunned off that. But then Golovkin goes back to the corner, and I'm thinking, he's not with it tonight. And Abel Sanchez, Golovkin's trainer, tells him, loosen up and let your hands go. Now, I heard this said in subsequent, or previous, I should say, Golovkin bouts. And Golovkin was still relying on single shots. The jab. He went out there in the second round, and my God, what a finisher. He sent this guy into outer space. Golovkin's jab was hurting this guy, sending him back to the ropes. Again, this is a guy that's gone the distance with some world-class fighters and has got some good results, 33 wins in his career. Golovkin sends him back with a jab, hits him with an overhand right. I think he's knocked out with the first shot, then lands 2 subsequent power jabs, I call it, and then finishes the guy with sort of the same left hook that Tony Bellew finished David Haye with. And the guy drops to the floor like a sack of spuds. He's getting up. He reaches the 8 count. It reaches 9. and then he collapses to the floor. I think he said, I don't want no more of this. Now, none of the previous world-class fighters did to this guy what Gennady Golovkin did. Even though it's not the best pick in the world for Gennady Golovkin, I was quite impressed by his accuracy, and his hands looked fast to me. And he used combinations to finish that fight. I think Gennady Golovkin is at his best when he's putting combinations together. If he can tuck that chin, because he has a tendency, Golovkin, to get hit for me when it's not necessary. He seems to not care about what the other guy's throwing, because that chin of his is like Mayweather's defence. It seemingly can't be broken. But if he could tuck that chin and use combinations when he's got a guy like Canelo on the ropes, it would be interesting to see how Canelo would deal with that. Because although I thought Golovkin won the fight based off ring generalship, pressure, jabs, outlanding Canelo, I didn't see many combinations. It was all single punches and very well set up from Gennady Golovkin. But we have to say, and I wasn't surprised to hear it, according to CompuBox, Gennady Golovkin has the best jab in boxing. That does not surprise me at all. People sort of go through Gennady Golovkin, who equaled Bernard Hopkins' record at middleweight of 20 consecutive defences of his world title. Now, people could say what they want, but I'll tell you what, no matter what the opposition, and there have been some good fighters in there. You have got Danny Jacobs, Canelo, David Lemieux, Kell Brook, who looked strong at 154 pounds. So it wasn't like Golovkin was fighting a natural welterweight. He was fighting, when he fought Kell Brook, a light middleweight who burns himself down to welterweight. That's who Gennady Golovkin was fighting that night. He went up one weight class, really, Kell Brook. And look at the difference. Golovkin finished Kell Brook 6 rounds quicker than Errol Spence did. And Errol Spence is currently on the pound-for-pound list on Ring Magazine. Right, so Gennady Golovkin's record, it does have some good, at least 3 or 4 A-level fighters. David Lemieux's there as well. And some real solid B-level guys like Daniel Geale and so forth. But what it shows is consistency. Real consistency. 20 consecutive title defences. He's turned up when the lights are on. Whether you like him or not, that's what he's done. Right? And people say XYZ about his record. Oh, he only beat this guy. Well, I often used to tease the Mayweather fans with Andre Ward until the Kovalev fight. But I don't even think you can put the Kovalev fight in this category. I used to say to Floyd Mayweather fans, when they used to talk about how their guy is so superior to Andre Ward, and I do rate Mayweather better than Andre Ward, I was just annoying them. But I used to say, show me Andre Ward's Luis Castillo moment. And they couldn't. Show me the fight where Andre Ward, at the end of it, you think 100% he's lost. 100%. There isn't one. There is not one. There is with Mayweather. That's Castillo. Now, Gennady Golovkin. Let's go back to Floyd just then. Of all Floyd's opponents, the guy that you thought would beat him wouldn't have been Castillo. So there was a night when Floyd was not with it, right? With Gennady Golovkin, show me Gennady Golovkin's Luis Castillo moment. No, it wasn't Danny Jacobs. Whether you think Golovkin won, Jacobs won, etc., it was not conclusive. that Jacobs won that fight. In fact, Gennady Golovkin on punch stats outlanded Jacobs, he dropped Jacobs, and so forth. The stats for Mayweather-Castillo was lopsided for Jose Luis Castillo in that first fight. Gennady Golovkin does not have a Castillo moment on his record. Canelo not either. That was called a draw. We all know it wasn't a draw. He beat Canelo. Right? There is not a Castillo moment on Gennady Golovkin's record. Like it, lump it, whatever you want with it, that's a fact. Do I say Golovkin is greater than Mayweather? No. I still rate Mayweather as one of the greatest you will ever see. But what I'm saying is, for all those picking holes out of Golovkin's record, and there are B-level fighters on there, it's not always easy to be consistently beating B-level fighters, as Floyd found out that night against Castillo. Did anybody put Marcus Maidana? Now, it's not like Castillo. Did anybody put Marcus Maidana up there with Canelo or Pacquiao? No. Marcus Maidana tested Floyd in that first fight. Consistency. Golovkin has got consistency. Let's compare and contrast his record with Bernard Hopkins. Golovkin hits like a train. You feel like you've been hit by a combination of a Concorde and a train when he hits you. That's according to last night's opponent, by the way. For me, Gennady Golovkin's 20 defences are far more watchable and entertaining than Bernard Hopkins. Hopkins' reign at middleweight was more entertaining than when he went up in the weights. And all in all, you have to give it to Bernard. A legend. The oldest world champion maybe we will ever see. Longevity, consistency, and against boxers. He's done this against boxers. There are no tennis players or MMA fighters in there. Bernard Hopkins, what you see is what you get, right? Hall of Famer, all-time great, all of the things I've mentioned. Better fighter overall because of what he's done in different weight classes. But the middleweight reign, I prefer watching Gennady Golovkin's, and Gennady Golovkin is not a crude slugger. As I said, he sets things up with a jab. With his sneaky movements, he doesn't look fast, but he's thinking fast to get close to you. The way he cuts off the ring, the craftsmanship. The variety of shots, left hook, right hand, power in both hands. The ring IQ. He is not a better version of Arturo Gatti. He's not. He's above that. Gennady Golovkin is a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best middleweights we've seen. Gennady Golovkin is more like Lennox Lewis, who was a master of the sweet science, than he is an Arturo Gatti. Golovkin loves war, but he loves to box and can do it. So, both guys have boxing genius in different ways. People presume that Hopkins is the masterful boxer and Golovkin is a crude slugger. And as I've said, no. That's like saying that Hopkins is just a fancy Dan boxer. Well, he isn't. We know Hopkins is strong on the inside and can deal with things and make it rough for opponents once they get there. And is very hard to hit and can hit you smoothly back with great counters. Golovkin can be a lead puncher with the jab, with the power punches. He can out-hustle an opponent. Great body puncher. But he plants the shots. He just does not wing them. Sometimes that's his problem when he fights Canelo. But that's because he's a boxer. That's to his credit. So, both guys are sensational at what they do. There's no question about it. Who would have won at middleweight? I don't know. At middleweight, again, pound for pound, I've got to give it to Bernard Hopkins. At middleweight, maybe I'll be edging maybe Triple G. Maybe he outworks Hopkins, because Hopkins at middleweight did lose to Jermaine Taylor. So there's hope that Golovkin could maybe beat Hopkins at middleweight. It could go the other way, I'm not saying otherwise, where Bernard Hopkins neutralises a lot of what Gennady Golovkin does. But Hopkins gets inside and he takes the heart out of fighters. He breaks their heart on the inside when they realise how good he is on the inside and how dirty and sneaky and rough he is. Well, let me tell you something. Gennady Golovkin loves that fight, doesn't he? So he would be able to give, in terms of the rough stuff, more than Bernard could hope to be offered. Let's just put it that way. There would be body shots in there. There would be Golovkin smiling as it gets horrible on the inside, because he is the god of war. Then Bernard Hopkins, who is a masterful counterpuncher and boxer, would have success with Golovkin coming forward that way. But when Bernard Hopkins steps back, Golovkin's jab, if Hopkins sets himself and stays still for a minute, will be in his face. And when he gets tagged by Gennady Golovkin, what does Hopkins do? I know Golovkin could take Hopkins' power at middleweight. But it'd be interesting to see with Bernard being hit at middleweight by a Gennady Golovkin, who is not Jermaine Taylor, what would happen? I'm edging Golovkin. Maybe it's because I like his style more, but I'm thinking that is a competitive fight. There are many historians trying to tell me that it would be a whitewash for Bernard Hopkins. Golovkin is not a middleweight version of Kelly Pavlik. He's not. He would be by far the best middleweight that Bernard Hopkins ever faced. And, of course, Hopkins would be the best that Golovkin ever faced. But it's competitive. Don't let nostalgia, ruin your view of two masters of the middleweight division. So, congratulations to Gennady Golovkin. He's a record breaker along with Bernard. He belongs with Bernard, at least at the middleweight division. Very few belong with Bernard Hopkins in terms of what he's done overall, right? It's like saying, could Juan Manuel Marquez compete with Manny Pacquiao at 154 pounds? Pacquiao can beat 154 pounders at his best. Marquez maybe not. But at their respective weights, Marquez can roll with Pacquiao. We've seen it. And I think at Golovkin's place, he can roll with Bernard Hopkins. But two historical fighters. Let's not wait for Gennady Golovkin to be gone for years before we appreciate him, because that's what people are doing with Bernard Hopkins now. At the time, I must admit I was guilty myself. Some of his fights were difficult to watch. I didn't appreciate the art of him being able to be again consistent, resilient, being able to come back from defeat, dominate, sometimes be dominated but not be discouraged, and still be the oldest world champion. So, we appreciate Bernard now. Appreciate Gennady Golovkin now. He's a different style, but worthy of acclaim in his own right. Next time out, what happens between him and Canelo if it happens in September? Last time, Gennady Golovkin was out of the ring for a long time. Canelo at least had a warm-up with Chavez. He got a 12-round workout, if not a particular fight or a competitive fight. It's now the other way around. Golovkin's been in the ring, and Canelo's been out a while now. It'll be a year, I think, in September. You always benefit from activity. I don't care what it is. Sports, reading books, studying. Muscles are there to be used. Minds are there to be used. the more you use something within reason, not overworking it, but using it just enough, the better it gets. Gennady Golovkin will be less ring rusty come September than Canelo Alvarez. And dare I say, if Canelo was taking on purpose performance enhancing drugs, he's going to be searched more now than the Afghan border. Let's see what Canelo Alvarez is like in terms of strength and punch resistance come September, because I was shocked at how he dealt with Golovkin's pressure and power, even though I thought Golovkin was clearly winning. So, what does that lead me to believe? I think Golovkin will be sharper than Canelo. He's actually had a contest. Not much of one, but he did have a good first round where he had a first round of competition where he went back to the ring and had to reassess about what to do next. Practice makes perfect. I see Gennady Golovkin beating Canelo Alvarez again. And I see the public wanting Gennady Golovkin to beat Canelo. I think now Canelo has made a rod for his own back with this situation. To do with the hair, the drugs, the beef, if you could call it an excuse. I think now Golovkin knows what he has to do a little bit more. That he can't just... Well, Bernard Hopkins Canelo, for instance. Golovkin, he out-jabbed Canelo, out-boxed him. When they were up against the ropes, did nothing silly to get caught. If that was Bernard Hopkins doing that to Canelo, everybody would have said, wow, B-Hop is one smart man. He's out-fought and out-boxed Canelo. But when Gennady Golovkin does it, it's, well, he didn't go for the jugular. He didn't go for the knockout. He was too cautious. So Golovkin knows that he can't do what Bernard Hopkins can do, because the perception of judges and boxing is for you to get any credit as Gennady Golovkin, you have to destroy. You're not allowed to be Bernard Hopkins or Floyd Mayweather. Same with Pacquiao. He was never allowed to win close but fights that were closer to the sweet science than war. They have to always dominate and explode on their opponents to get any credit. I think Golovkin is going to try and do that. Abel Sanchez will get Golovkin to use combinations. And if he gets his chin tucked, Canelo's tank will not get better. That's genetic. He gasses every fight to a certain extent. He had 4 good rounds against Golovkin, and then he was on retreat. And there were opportunities for Golovkin on them ropes. But he looked happy for the decision. A bit again like Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield. Lewis had Holyfield in that first fight on them ropes and was just happy to win it on the jab, but got robbed. That's what I think happened to Golovkin. Next time, I don't think Golovkin will be so cautious and will throw cautious to the wind a little bit. Because the power of Canelo's punches will go with the fatigue. And I think Golovkin may actually, if not stop Canelo, will win more convincingly next time round. Because he's sharper, he's not been out the ring as long. It's Canelo that will have the rust now. And I think the strategy from Golovkin will be different. Because in Vegas, it has to be. So, that was a hell of a talk, wasn't it? This is Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. Congratulations, Golovkin. Hopkins still a legend. And farewell, David Haye. You've entertained us all. I'm out.